Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you this afternoon. We have a packed agenda for our first superintendent webcast of the new school year. We did take a month off in June there to give you a little bit of a break, but also give us a break. So that allows us to have a pretty packed agenda for this meeting. As far as the agenda itself, next slide, please. Of course, we'll do some welcome and updates. And we also have, as usual, Jennifer Ginn, our Director of Communications, will be giving some more updates from the Kentucky Department of Education. There will be a slight change in what you see on the agenda for today. The Agriculture Education Week will be after the Senate Bill 181 questions and answers, just before the important date. So we made a last-minute change to move that. So again, the Ag Education Week will be moved till after the portion there at the end with Senate Bill 181. So then that means we'll start with the Impact Kentucky right after Jennifer with Ellie Gilbert, and then we'll have in the Meeks we'll have the violence prevention and youth dating relationships, and then of course a really nice topic, the college admissions exam. We'll have Dr. Stafford, and this is her first meeting as Associate Commissioner of the Office of Assessment and Accountability. So Jennifer, Dr. Stafford will be presenting on the college admissions exam. Then, of course, we'll have probably something that everyone's very interested in is Senate Bill 181 questions and answers. That document is now posted, and we have I think it's 10 pages, and it may have expanded overnight. I'm not sure. But Todd, our Deputy Commissioner, Todd Allen, will go over those questions. We did our best to align those questions and answers with the folks at the Capitol to make sure that we're in alignment with that. And of course, as you already know, there's a lot of discussion on how does this bill need to change for January, but we have to get there first. So we have some questions and answers, and we've taken some interpretation here, and we'll share that with you for the end. Then again, after the Senate Bill 181 will be the Ag Education Week presentation, and then we'll close with important dates. So a good agenda for today. A lot of great questions, and if you have any questions, of course, just let us know. Next slide, please. Before I go into the important due dates and talk a little bit about that, I want to take an opportunity to welcome a few new folks to this. Our new superintendent. So listen very closely. We want to welcome each of these folks to our superintendent webcast. And if we missed one, please let stacy.ball@education.ky.gov know, because we do have a lot of distribution lists, but we do want to welcome, and some of these folks are superintendents that may have just switched roles. There's many new folks that are part of this superintendent webcast, including Michael Melton at Bath County, Justin Kaiser at Beechwood, Ryan Crawford at Bell, Dr. Ryan Neves at Berea Independent, Chris Lamons at Bergen Independent, and interim superintendent Jennifer Fraley at Carter County, Brett Johnson at Harlan County, and at Harlan Independent, Jennifer Parsons. At Hart County, Burke Bo Chenoweth. In Hopkins, Damon Fleming. And from Jefferson, Dr. Brian Yearwood, who we met today. As a matter of fact, Dr. Yearwood and I had a great conversation today. It was good to meet him face to face. As an interim in Lewis County, we have Jeff Aulick. I believe Jeff was it Bracken that Jeff was at before? But again, I probably shouldn't mention things without saying exactly what it is. But Jeff has been an interim in Lewis right now. We have Amy Ramage at Livingston, and I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. An interim at McCreary and Clint Taylor. Joshua Kincaid in Menifee. William Bill Jones at Middlesboro Independent. Dr. David Mindshine coming from Livingston, moving to Murray Independent. Matt Atkins as an interim at Newport Independent. Claudette Harold in Oldham. Robert Braden in Taylor. Jessica Addison in Todd. And Dr. Lori Jones in Woodford County. So again, those are the lists that we have. If there's anyone that we missed, please let Stacy know. That way we make sure we get everyone on the distribution list. So again, congratulations to each person. I hope that you enjoy the superintendent role half as much as I did, because if you do, you'll have a great tenure. Now, I was there for 10 years. I hope each of you make it at least 10 years and enjoy that time as being part of the district. It's a huge seat to sit in, but most importantly, as long as you keep students at the center of every decision, it'll be a great tenure for you. Next, just to talk a little bit about some updates. As always, for those of you that have been around for a while, you're very familiar with our important due dates for superintendents. That document is on SharePoint and available. I do want to make one other comment about this. We have used the important due dates for superintendents to look at some work. I think it was House Bill 48 that talked about red tape reduction. Here internally, we've been looking at this document to say, okay, which of these reports are statutorily required or required by KDE? What are some things that maybe need to be looked at about being removed? But for right now, this is where we are on the important due dates, and you may see some changes maybe as in the upcoming session about some other due dates that may be changed. But I do want to thank our people here internally that are looking at that document and making some revisions as we move forward. But again, I live by this document as a superintendent and my staff, and that is on SharePoint now. Next slide, please. I want to take some time to congratulate Superintendent Kenny Bell and the people at Wolfe County. Wolfe County ranked first in the nation on Education Recovery Scorecard. The Wolfe County School District has the #1 district in the nation in math growth. That is phenomenal. We want to congratulate Kenny Bell and his staff, his teachers, and his students for everything that's going on there. And this was on the 2024 Education Recovery Scorecard by Stanford and Harvard. It is a collaboration effort, but again, each year they issue a report on district student growth in math and reading. Wolfe County placed #1 in math with a 1.45 grade levels gain between 2022 and 2024, and they placed as the #4 district in reading scores with a 1.03 grade level gain between 2022 and 2024. So again, we want to congratulate Wolfe County for that tremendous feat, and congratulations as we move forward. Next slide, please. We also have several educators that have been a part. I think we have a group of 68 educators that successfully completed the NISL program, which is the National Institute for School and System Leadership program during the 2024 and 2025 school year. As a matter of fact, this is a leadership group that I completed for superintendents probably about 10 years ago, as a matter of fact. So it's a great program, and want to congratulate this group because it is a very rigorous program that is offered. But it's offered in between KDE, as a partnership between KDE and the National Center on Education and the Economy. And this leadership experience equips schools and district leaders with skills, strategies, and vision to drive meaningful and sustainable change in their learning communities. Next slide, please. One of the best conferences that I went to last year was the Educators Rising Conference. And then, so it's great for me to be able to deliver this news to you folks. Our Educating Rising Kentucky names their state officers for 2025. So I want to start off by congratulating Superintendent Matthew Meddings. Matthew Medding, he is at Graves County, and the president is from Graves County, and Mr. Hunter Carr. President-elect, and congratulations, I think that's Dr. Jeff Oswald out of Boone County. Lily Russell is the president-elect out of the Ignite Institute for Region 6. And of course, I think all the rest of the group comes from Jefferson County. So congratulations to Dr. Yearwood as Director of Membership, Alyssa Pollard from Ballard High School. Co-Director of Communications, Haley Chowning out of Seneca High School. And then co-director of communications is Kelly Hernandez from Central High Magnet Careers Academy in Jefferson County. And the director of outreach and service is Niet Serkali from Central High Magnet Career Academy in Jefferson County. The Educators Rising is the career technical student organization for middle and high school students interested in education-related careers. If you have students that are wanting to participate in the conference, I highly suggest it. It was one of the best conferences that I attended last year. It was great to see so much enthusiasm from rising teachers. Next question, or next slide, please. We'll take some time to, again, it was mentioned a little bit earlier, to congratulate Dr. Jennifer Stafford as she takes over the Associate Commissioner role of the Office of Assessment Accountability. She brings along 2 decades of experience in this role, and she's been a long-time leader with KDE. You've seen her be a large part of our Kentucky United We Learn Council work. She's been, I think she's been, actually here it says, she has served as the Director of Division Assessment since 2015. So congratulations to Dr. Stafford. I do want to give one other update that's not listed on the slides. As you may or may not know, Kentucky has joined a lawsuit, in particular our governor has joined a lawsuit on the withholding of title funds. Here at the department, we did write a declaration to support the governor, a declaration of harm, how this impacts each district and what that looks like for the state of Kentucky. The governor did enter into the lawsuit, and I think there's 24 states that are part of that lawsuit, including the District of Columbia, that's a part of this lawsuit on the withholding of funds. And just to kind of review, and probably most of you on this knows where the funding is, but it's Title I Part C funding. That's the migrant education funding. That's to the total of $7.9 million here in Kentucky. Title II Part A is the supporting effective instruction. That's $33.6 million. And I believe that impacts every single district in our state. Title IIIA was $5.7 million. Title IVA, which is the student support and academic achievement, is $20.3 million. And for those of you that have the 21st Century Grant under Title IV-B, that's $19.4 million. So for a total of $87 million. We did a broadcast when we found out about this. I think it was the Wednesday, maybe July 2nd or 3rd, to talk about some options, all of which are very, to say they're grim is maybe an understatement, but to let you have that opportunity to say, okay, these are some things that we can look at moving forward. Again, we don't have all the answers. We have some options. As far as moving money around, there is a little bit of a gamble, if you will, if you take one from one fund to replace into another. But again, if you want to watch that broadcast, that is available. A little bit more background on that. This was actually approved. This funding was approved by Congress in the Continuing Appropriations Extension Act in March, and it was actually signed by the president on March 15th. With that being said, there was actually an allocation, I believe, already a preliminary allocation given in the Title IV-A before we were told these funds were being withheld. We don't have a timeline of when this, I think technically they've used the phrase preliminary review on this funding, but I do want you to know that if you haven't seen it already, the governor has entered the lawsuit as it relates to this. I do want to make mention on we do have the SB 181 guidance that's going to be there, but also to the last item I'll talk about before I turn it over to Jennifer is the House Bill 828. In 2024, we just completed an APA audit, which has been released. There are several great suggestions as a part of that, and they also list a lot of positive accomplishments, some noteworthy accomplishments by the department as part of this audit report. We are taking this as an opportunity to grow, but again, we do encourage you if you want to see some of the inner workings of KDE, you're more than welcome to look at that. There is a rebuttal. I think it starts on page 472. Yes, I did say page 472 of the audit. The audit itself cost $1.2 million, and that was something that was we had to absorb here at the department from our budget. This is not a funded mandate, but it was cost so far, and I do expect possibly one more bill to come out of this. But right now, the audit did cost $1.2 million. On the positive side, there are some things that we're going to take this and learn to grow as we move forward. So I tried to get through all those updates, and there's some things on here that I had that associate commissioners and deputy commissioner will go over. But from at this point, I'll turn it over to Jennifer again.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. First up, we have, as usual, competitive grants from KDE. There are a few this time around. Just a reminder, FY26 grant year begins on July 1, ends on June 30th, 2026. So FY26 refers to when the grant will be awarded, not when the projects will begin. So FY26 Community Education RFA grant applications due July 17 at 4 p.m. Award about $20,000 per district. There is a matching funds requirement of $5,000 salary match. So KDE is issuing an RFA to implement local community education initiatives. And here's a description of what community education means. Current grantees do not need to apply. FY26 Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. Applications are due July 25th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The award amount varies by the number of students served, and there's no matching funds required. The grant program is to increase fresh fruits and vegetable consumption in elementary schools. Elementary schools that represent the state's highest free and reduced price enrollment are eligible to participate in the program and are given priority for being selected due to their high level of need. Our last one is FY26 CTE Innovation and Support Grant. Applications are due November 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Award amount $100,000, no matching funds required. The purpose of CTE Innovation Support Grant is support innovation in new or emerging career fields. So the school districts must submit a separate application for each CTE school or program in a comprehensive high school. ATCs can submit an independent application. And as usual, if you have any questions, and if you want more information, it's available on the KDE Competitive Grants webpage or by emailing Jennifer Bryant. Language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, letters, professional learning. We are accepting applications for cohort 4. So far, over 6,000 Kentucky educators and administrators have been involved in cohorts 1 through 3 of Letters Professional Learning. The application for cohort 4 closes in August. There's a Letters for Educators cohort, and the course is recommended for K-5 teachers, interventionists, reading specialists, instructional coaches, and anyone providing reading instruction or intervention supports to early readers. There's also a Letters for Administrators cohort, which is recommended for instructional coaches who have completed Letters for Educators, district leaders, and building administrators. So be sure, if you are interested in that, to take a look at the registration. And we are saving our Ag Education Week more toward the end. Next up, we have Ellie Gilbert and Meredith Brewer. Are you all there to talk about Impact KY?
I'm here. I think Dr. Brewer, I saw her somewhere in here. But I'm Ellie Gilbert. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Impact Kentucky Queen. It is my passion project. I do love it. I know a lot of people have different feelings, but it is something that I dearly love because I think it gives teachers an opportunity to speak freely about their working conditions, and it gives administrators an opportunity to take action on those. So next slide. So this year we are in our survey year. We will start, the window will open November 10th and close December 19th. And then, of course, results will come January, February. This is for all certified public school staff that work at least half-time in a building. So just to kind of give you some idea about who we survey, this is conducted in partnership with Panorama Education. I think this is our 4th round of surveys with them. And so they've been really good about helping us keep that data longitudinal and very relevant. And this is the goal, to collect educator voice on key priorities and concerns. Next slide. Why is this survey important? It is a trusted data-driven tool that we've used in some form or fashion for over 10 years. It should be a key tool in shaping school and district improvement. It empowers our educators to be heard, and it helps you guide your decision-making around professional learning, culture, and working conditions. And again, I love it. I know everybody doesn't, but it is my favorite. I call it the most wonderful time of the year because it comes right before Christmas, and I think that we should just capitalize on that. So next slide. All right, so here's kind of what we're going to talk about today. KDE and Panorama partner to make it happen. On August 15th, you will get an email, superintendents, with survey instructions, and that will come from Dr. Fletcher. So be sure to open that and start making the plans to speak to your principals and designate the folks who are going to be handling that in each school. So principals will work with their site-based decision-making council, if they have one, to appoint a school survey coordinator. And that coordinator will take care of all the details on the school level. So that's your primary responsibility, is just to send that information along to your principals. Next slide. So the school coordinator is super, super important because they distribute all of our access codes to our teachers. They will monitor participation. They will be their contact for me for survey communication. They'll hear so much from me. They'll practically be on my Christmas card list by the time it's over. And they need to be a teacher leader, someone who other teachers trust and look to for guidance, and for someone that they feel confident, have some confidence in. So next slide. So your principals and your site-based coordinators will work together to make sure they've contacted all of the schools and that they have one survey coordinator per school. Then they have an option. Either the principals can register the survey coordinator, or the survey coordinator can register themselves. I don't care how they do it. I find it usually is a more accurate number if the principals do it, but as long as they all collaborate, it doesn't really matter which person does that. So next slide. This is huge though. An accurate count of certified staff that work at least half-time in your building. Principals will know this. Teacher leaders may not know who's certified or what their work schedule is or whatever. So it's always best to consult with the principal. We include teachers, counselors, assistant principals, therapists, pretty much anyone who has a certificate from the EPSB and is half-time employed in your building. And if you have a question, you can always ask me, because I can tell you what I think is the guidance on that. But the most important thing is not to overestimate. We send you a few bonus codes just in case you undercounted. But your participation rate really is important. It's important to know how many people in your school are doing it. But if you don't have at least, a certain number of participation, you won't get your results. So don't overestimate. We can always send you more. It's a lot harder for us to adjust the numbers after the fact if we find that you overestimated. So always estimating, having the accurate count is hugely important. Next slide. So here are important dates. I will send you an email through Dr. Fletcher on August 15th, and then I will send the principals an email on September 15th. And hopefully in between then you have contacted them and they know what's coming. By October 3rd, they should have contacted and identified their coordinators. We will have a deadline on October 10th. I will contact those folks in the meantime and get them trained to make sure they know what to expect for the survey. Then we'll start administering the survey November 10th through December 19th, a whole 6 weeks to get it done. Teachers can do it at school or at home as long as they have their code. It doesn't matter where they do it. And then in February, those results will be available. And I always like to remind folks that it is completely confidential. I have access to pretty much every piece of information that comes from it, and I couldn't tell you who fills out the survey. So I promise it's very, very confidential. And that's important for teachers to know. Next slide. So if you need help at any time, this is my contact information. I'm also your contact information if you want to start one of those Ed Rising chapters. I would love to talk to you about that too. So anything, we over in the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development are here to just support and elevate the teaching profession. So we'd love to come visit your schools and help you set up those programs and make sure everybody's happy and thriving. So if you need anything, please contact me. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Next up, we have a couple of new people joining us for violence prevention and youth dating relationships. We have Indica Meeks and Nikila Cleveland. Are you both with us?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you all for having us this afternoon. So we are here from the Kentucky Judicial Commission on Mental Health, that is a part of the Administrative Office of the Courts. Next slide, please. So the Kentucky Judicial Commission on Mental Health, it is a Supreme Court initiative that was established on August the 11th of 2022. It is chaired by our Deputy Chief Justice, Robert B. Conley from the Kentucky Supreme Court. The commission has been charged with exploring, recommending, and implementing transformational changes to improve system-wide responses, and it consists of 10 work groups. Next slide, please. And one of those work groups is our domestic violence work group, which is chaired by Judge Denise Brown out of the 30th Judicial Circuit, which is in Jefferson County. That work group is comprised of 62 members, and it has, I believe, 3 subgroups. And one of those subgroups is one that myself and Nikila are part of, the Advocacy in Schools subgroup. And next slide, please. And I will pass on information about our Healthy Relationships Initiative to Nikila.
Hello, everyone. So in our work group, in our sub work group, we've been talking about different curriculums to introduce to you all that you could possibly adopt into your school districts, just for the evidence-based curricula to be out there. So we have 2 of them. The first one is Safe Dates, and the second one is the 4th R program. Next slide, I probably should have said that, sorry. So Safe Dates is an evidence-based interactive curriculum designed to prevent dating violence and promote healthy relationship skills among youth, targeted to middle and high school students. The program includes 10 engaging sessions to cover topics as recognized abusive behaviors, effective communication, conflict resolution, and seeking help. It's backed by research. Safe Dates has been proven to reduce emotional, physical, and sexual dating violence, both perpetrators and victims. It's adaptable to structure to make ideal implementation in schools, youth programs, and community centers. The 4th R, which R is relationships, is a comprehensive evidence-based curriculum designed to promote healthy relationships and prevent violence as well. But they also include substance abuse and risky sexual behavior among youth. Targeted primarily at youth and high school students, the program integrates relationship skills education into core subjects like health and physical education. Treating is essential as reading, writing, and arithmetic. The original 3 R's, those engaging skill building activities, students learn effective communication, emotional regulation, conflict resolution, and decision making. And it demonstrates long-term effectiveness in reducing dating violence and encouraging respectful, safe peer and romantic relationships. Next slide. Okay, I guess that's up. So this is just indicating as contact information. If you have additional questions about the curriculum or just what we've been working on in general, you can feel free to reach out to us. The next slide has a QR code for you to be able to scan if you have to basically give us a better look at what we're looking at. If you guys want the curriculum in your schools, that would be great. And if you don't, maybe some reasoning why, so that we can look into finding different resources for you guys. We did add like a link for you to click on, but I don't think that got into this slideshow.
We've got a link that's available in the alt text if you're using a screen reader, but besides for that, I don't think so.
Okay, I will put it in the chat if is that okay?
Yeah, that will be great.
Thank you, Nikila. I appreciate that.
Of course.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you 2 done?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Oh,
thank you.
Awesome. I didn't want to step on your toes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Up next, we have Dr. Jennifer Stafford talking about college admissions exam. Are you with us, Jennifer?
I am. Thanks, Jen. Good afternoon, everyone. And Commissioner, thank you for the introduction. I'm excited to take on the new role. As I move into the new role, though, we have some updates around the college admissions exam. So the contract that we had with the ACT to administer the ACT to our juniors expired. So with that, a process that's outlined in the Kentucky Model Procurement Code, and that's outlined in statute, Chapter 45A, governs how state agencies, which include the Department of Education, secure vendors and secure contracts for anything, including large-scale assessments and college admissions exam. So with the expiration of the contract last year, we started what's called the request for proposal process through that model procurement code to secure a college admissions exam for our juniors. So with that process, the department puts out a request for bids. And in those, in that RFP process, the department puts forward the requirements and expectations for vendors then that can return the bid and bid on the contract, bid for the contract, demonstrating how they can meet the requirements of that RFP. So those vendors that respond to the RFP, then they their bid is evaluated on a couple of different factors, and that includes both cost as well as technical quality. Now, this process that we followed is designed to ensure fairness for all of our vendors in the selection process and was facilitated by the Finance and Administration Cabinet. So the Kentucky Department of Education, we followed all of those model procurement codes that's outlined in those state laws. So on June 30th, we did make an announcement that the decision was made to move forward with the College Board as our new vendor to supply the SAT for the college admissions exam. So we followed those processes that were outlined in that code and is required by law. And so with that being said, since that announcement on June 30th, the department has received a protest against the award of that college board contract. So at this point, as of today, all work toward that contract has paused while that process is being completed. Jen, if you'll go to the next slide. So the announcement, again, was shared and does impact the 25-26 school year. So this contract impacts those rising juniors. So the seniors that are rising, the class of 2026, took the ACT. It's those rising juniors that'll be the class of 2027 that's impacted by this contract. So many districts are already familiar with the College Board. Several districts use AP exams and courses for their content at the high school level. So this existing relationship should help with the transition to College Board if the result of the protest is overturned. So it provides students the high quality assessments that supports post-secondary readiness. And so again, moving forward, we had hoped to be able to provide you with additional information. But as we move to slide 3, I just will note, or the next slide, SAT did put forward a bid for an adaptive exam that is just 2 hours and 14 minutes in length. And that includes a reading, writing, math assessment that's in 2 sections. There would be a reading and writing section and a separate math section. So each of those have two sections in those, and that's adaptive. So with the approach to the reading and math sections, the students would take, if the contract goes forward, the students would take section 1, and it's adaptive. So depending on how the students respond and perform in that first section, then it will determine and have impact on what the students take in the next section. So for example, if they do really well on that first section, then they will not get waste their time on getting really easy or questions in that second section. So that adaptive nature helps reduce the amount of time that the students may spend on within the assessment. And so that is a unique design with the SAT that delivers an analysis of science score that's generated by the performance in those two sections, both reading and writing as well as math. So the next slide, Jen. Again, while we had hoped to provide detailed information regarding the implementation of that college admissions exam, progress has been delayed due to the protest. And as a result, our collaborative work with the College Board was halted pending that resolution. Now, I want to assure you that the Kentucky Department of Education will meet every deadline and every step toward that process that's outlined in that model procurement code. And so a protest to an award of a contract is a normal part of that code, and it is within the rights of all the vendors who responded to that bid to protest the award. So it's a normal part of the process. It's outlined in statute, and the Finance and Administration Cabinet is facilitating that, as they did the RFP process that we went through. So again, just wanted to update you where we are and assure you that we will do everything that we can to follow the outline in that code, as well as keep you up to date as the progress moves toward an administration. And we will follow the result of that protest. So I'll stop.
Dr. Stafford, if I can, some things that, as far as the SAT, that are some perks. And again, we will follow whatever happens as the result. So please keep in mind, if that protest is held up and we're back with ACT, we'll hold up with that. If it's SAT, we'll go that too. But one of the things that Dr. Stafford has shared with me is that the SAT actually gives you like a 4-week window to administer the test. So districts could choose when they would like to take the test within that window, as opposed to it has to be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning at a certain time or a certain date. The other thing is there's a lot of resources for students and a lot of opportunities for students to get some free tests, Khan Academy, things of that nature with the SAT process. So again, if you look at the time used for testing, the adaptive model, and some other things, there's some perks about this. But again, we will be looking at how to proceed once this process is over. Dr. Stafford, anything you'd like to correct me on there? Anything maybe that was off on a little bit?
No, we are looking forward to, again, going through the process and resolving the situation and following whatever the result of the protest is. So look forward to providing more information to our district so that we can all move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Stafford.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up on the webcast is Senate Bill 181 Questions and Answers with Deputy Commissioner Todd Allen, KDE's Chief Legal Counsel. Are you there, Todd?
I'm here. Thank you, Jen. Good afternoon, superintendents. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you this afternoon and to discuss Senate Bill 181, the Traceable Communication Systems legislation. I am certain that on this topic, you all have received just as many questions as we have. It seems to be the topic that is garnering a lot of attention in Kentucky public education, a lot of questions. So we're hopeful that we can help to answer some of those for you all, for your staff, for your communities, and get us off to a great school year. I wanted to take a moment to thank those of you who took the time to respond to our survey that we sent out a week or so ago, asking for the questions that you had about Senate Bill 181. We were able to use those questions and formulate a frequently asked questions guidance document that, like I said, we hope will help you all and your communities navigate some of these questions that you're getting about Senate Bill 181. As Dr. Fletcher indicated earlier, that document was just posted to our website earlier today, so I will walk you through. If you want to go ahead and pull it up, completely up to you all. You can pull it up and look through it as we go through this process, or take a moment to find it later. But if you navigate to the department's main webpage, education.ky.gov, and hover over the district/school support tab at our website. And then once you're there, you'll scroll down to legislative guidance and click that link. And that will take you to the page where we post all of our legislative guidance. Scroll down to 2025, and this will be the very first document that is listed in that list. I'll go through that one more time. Main page is education.ky.gov. Hover over the district/school support tab on our website. Click on legislative guidance, and then scroll down on that page to 2025 regular session. And this document will be the first one that's posted there. So we'll take a moment to go through it. I won't go through every question and answer on the document, but I will go through a few that we think are important to highlight for your attention. First section of the document is just an introduction to Senate Bill 181 in general, what it provides, the big pieces of information that we think people need to know. And on page 1, question 1.2 and answer 1.2, I'll call your attention to that. I think that hopefully this will help clarify some questions that are occurring throughout the state, and that's whether or not Senate Bill 181 and its provisions on electronic communication apply to teachers and volunteers related to their communications with students who are enrolled in the district just where they work, or any district in the state. And we've reviewed that question and the language of the bill in detail, and you will see that KDE's interpretation is that it applies only to those communications between district employees and volunteers and students that are enrolled within that school district. There are several paragraphs there that lay out our analysis and our reasoning and how we came to that conclusion. But high level, when you look at Senate Bill 181's provisions, it requires a school district to authorize one or more traceable communication systems, but those systems are only going to be available to the employees and volunteers of that particular district to communicate with students of their district. It also provides for disciplinary action against employees and volunteers who communicate with students. And finally, the filing of the parental written consent form, which is detailed more in the guidance document, is with the school where the student attends. So when we looked at those three big things, it really doesn't make a lot of sense that the bill would apply to a teacher in District A communicating with a student, perhaps 3 or 4 counties over in a different school district. They may not even know where that student is enrolled in our entire state system. So hopefully that will answer some questions that you all are receiving on your end. Over on page 2, if you take a look at question 1.4 and answer 1.4, we received a lot of questions about whether or not this applied to local school board members, and really gets to the question of who is a volunteer under Senate Bill 181 and who is not. So you'll see there, we explain that school volunteer isn't defined in Senate Bill 181, but school districts already have policies on who is a school volunteer. That's at policy 03.6. So we would refer you to that policy, how you treat volunteers within your school district. If you consider them a volunteer under that policy, then they're going to be a volunteer under Senate Bill 181. But we also point out that local Board of Education members are actually compensated for their service. It may not be much, but they are compensated. So we would not consider them volunteers and applicable under Senate Bill 181. Over on page 3, question 1.7 and answer 1.7. This is one that we got that may be of interest to you. How long must traceable communication system retain the communications sent by a student or to a student? Unfortunately, Senate Bill 181 does not address the retention period for the traceable communication systems. And because there's no timeline provided, that may suggest to some folks that the communications are going to be kept forever. But of course, we know that systems do not retain communications forever. So here we recommend that school districts take a look at the records retention policies for school districts. That's a statewide records retention policy that applies to all school districts, and we've linked it there in the document for you to check out what the retention periods are for each of the traceable communication systems that you have designated, and then communicate those to your parents and communities in a transparent manner, just so they know on the front end how long the communications are actually going to be retained, and they're not confused on the back end. So for example, if a system is only going to retain communication for 1 year, you don't want a parent coming to you 5 years from now and asking to see copies of the communication and having to explain to them then that the retention period is only 1 year for that particular system. Page 4. Question 1.13 and answer 1.13. We got a simple question, but a really good one. What if a student calls the school telephone line? How does that apply? Are we able to talk to them? Yes. Calls placed by students to official school telephone lines are not considered within the scope of Senate Bill 181, so those conversations are permitted. Distinguish, however, that's not the same for a personal cellular phone. What we're talking about is the official school telephone line for students to call. Moving on to the next section of the document, this deals with the exceptions in Senate Bill 181. And of course, big picture, you know that the exceptions are if a school district employee or volunteer communicates using the designated traceable communication system, that's permitted. If they communicate with a family member, that's permitted. Or if they communicate electronically with a student because the student's parent has provided written consent, that's permissible. We go through a lot of those different exceptions and what they look like. But we did get a question, if you take a look on page 4, question 2.2, who in fact is a family member? We got questions about step parents, about grandparents who are acting in the place of parents for certain students. And the legislation does define a parent as a parent, legal guardian, or other person or agency responsible for a student. So we do believe that step parents are included in that if they are in fact responsible for the student. Moving on over to page 5, question 2.5 and answer 2.5. Can a school district refuse to accept that parental consent form? And when we look at that, Senate Bill 181 actually provides the authority to the parent to consent in writing for their students to be able to communicate with a specific school employee or volunteer. So that right really belongs to the parent, and we indicate there that schools can't really refuse to accept those parental consent forms. Moving on over on page 6, question 2.9, may a student who has reached the age of majority, that's 18 in Kentucky, sign his or her own consent form? And we say yes, so long as they meet the requirements under FERPA of being an eligible student. And you all can take a look at your policies 9.14 that talks about FERPA and eligible students. Then that student could sign their own consent form. Next section really applies here to activities that your staff may engage in outside of their official school duties. So some examples that we heard are hiring a babysitter who may be a student within the school district, being a youth leader at a church group where someone who is an employee of your school district is communicating with students, but in the context of that church youth group. Taking trips with your family where perhaps a child brings along a friend who happens to be enrolled in the school district. We answer a lot of those questions for you all in section 3 of the guidance document. Next up, a big one that we've received a lot of questions about, section 4, that begins over on page 8, is social media. The one that I will touch on for the purposes of this meeting is question 4.2 and answer 4.2, and that's about operating your own district official social media accounts, whether it's one for the district at large or particular schools. You will notice there that we indicate that that is permitted. Post to an official district social media account that you make. KDE looks at those as public communication with the community at large, not directed at any particular student, even though it is possible that a student may view the communication. So if you're just posting something for the entire community to see, although a student may view that communication, we would not look at that as prohibited under Senate Bill 181. Do, however, take a look at the settings on direct messages for your social media accounts. Need to be a little bit more cautious if you're allowing those and if a student sends a direct message and how a staff member may be communicating back with the student. Next is section 5, beginning on page 9. That's reporting requirements and consequences for non-compliance. And I call your attention on page 10 to question 5.4 and answer 5.4. We got questions about what school staff should do if they are responding to an imminent threat to health and safety of a student. And people provided us with various examples, but in any event, a student somehow reporting to them that they are in danger of harm or they are in a situation that poses harm to individuals around them. Senate Bill 181 does not contain a specific exception for imminent threats to health and safety. However, we fully realize that school employees have certain ethical responsibilities to not ignore imminent threats to health and safety. So what we really encourage here is that school districts sit down and consider what their procedures would be in this situation and clearly communicate those expectations and protocols to their staff so that if staff are faced with a situation where a student reaches out via electronic communication to communicate an imminent threat to health and safety, what should that staff member do in that situation in order to avoid any type of employment consequences from the district in that situation. So we include some examples here. For example, protocols requiring the employee to immediately notify the school principal that they received an electronic communication from a student regarding an imminent threat to health and safety, how they responded to it, and providing copies of all of the written communication, both to and from the student in that situation. That may be an option that a district considers communicating to its staff that would be acceptable. Again, what we're talking about is imminent threats to health and safety. Finally, section 6 is just where you can look for additional information. And with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions or further comments.
Hey, Stacy, do we have any questions in the Q&A?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, thank you all.
All right. Let me see if I can get my screen going again. Do you all see Fall In for Ag Education Week?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Bethany Mattingly with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture intended to be here for this meeting, but she couldn't, so she actually taped her presentation, which I'll play for you now.
Hello, Kentucky Superintendents. It is so great to visit with you again and talk to you about All In for Ag Education Week. This time we're doing it in the fall, September 15th through the 19th. So go ahead and mark those calendars. In case you don't remember, this is a statewide initiative involving 3 different groups coming to the table to do great things for Kentucky's kids. That includes the Kentucky Department of Education, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and Team Kentucky through Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman's office. I'm Bethany Mattingly. I'm the Director of Ag Education and Outreach for the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. Anytime you have any questions about Ag Education Week or any suggestions, or you're doing something super cool and you want to make sure people know about it, please let me know. My email will be at the end of this video, but it's also just bethany.mattingly@ky.gov. So let's first talk about what Ag Education Week looked like in March. We had our first Ag Education Week, and I'm going to share with you some data behind what that looked like. But first, let's look at some pictures. So we have some great engagement here. We had students who went to farm trips. We had students who were engaging in the classroom. And remember, Ag Education Week is not pause all learning and now we're going to learn about ag. We're going to take everything that we're learning in the standards and just learn it through the lens of agriculture. So we want to continue that education. We want to continue the work to master those standards. But how can we do that through the lens of agriculture? And the reason why we're doing this is to make sure that kids know about agriculture because it impacts us every single day. We can't go 5 seconds without being impacted by agriculture. So it just makes sense that we know just a little bit about it. Also, agriculture is highly engaging. There's a lot of research out there that shows that students who are involved in agriculture class are really engaged. They show up to class. They tend to have better scores on tests, especially around science and math, because of those practical elements that go into agriculture. So those are some of the great reasons why we do Ag Education Week and why I hope that you can encourage it within your district. You can see from these photos, the kids are up, they're engaged. And of course, doing something like this statewide, bringing 3 different groups together on one initiative means that we're getting a lot of really great publicity about the incredible work that's happening in schools every single day out there to the general public. So let's talk numbers. One of the best pieces of advice I got from a district person was know your numbers. So we did a feedback survey in the spring after our first Ag Education Week, and I want to share with you some of that feedback. So as far as who participated, this is what we know. We know for sure at least 63% of counties across the state had some level of participation that may have included one school or one classroom within that county, or it could have been every single classroom in that county. But we know at least 63% of counties participated in some way, and that's kind of a baseline score, so it could be higher than that. If you take a look at the overall experience, educators rated it a 4.3 out of 5, which I think is pretty exciting. And oddly enough, the community members who came into those classrooms were offered up tours on their farms and agribusinesses. Those community members also rated it a 4.3. So as our very first year, I think it was a really great baseline to build from there. If you look at our different initiatives, we had several different initiatives. You can find all of the information about what those look like and what they were at kyagr.com/agedweek under lesson plans. But you can see here that almost all of our initiatives had a really great score out of 5 stars. The ones that are in dark green, those were the ones that teachers used the most, which include stories about ag, where guest speakers came in and read a story about ag. It also included the Ag Book of Ag Education Week, which is a book we shipped out to every single public elementary school in the state. And then it had literacy lessons to go along with that. And then finally, Bring Ag to the Classroom was also very popular. And that's where we had guests who are involved in agriculture come into the classroom and teach what it means and what it is that they do in agriculture to local students. Those were all very popular. Across the board, we had really high participation in these different initiatives, but especially in the initiatives that KDE helped put together with us. And those were the science initiatives that brought real world science, especially around pollination and erosion, to the kids in the classroom through that agriculture lens. And they had to work to solve problems that we have here in Kentucky as agriculturalists. That's pretty cool to say that kindergartners through 5th graders are helping us solve the problems of tomorrow in the world of agriculture. Some of those different questions we also asked educators through this feedback survey was, what is your biggest takeaway? Across the board, we had lots of different questions and answers about that, but many of them said this was a really good opportunity to bring community involvement into the schools. And I know that Commissioner Fletcher has talked many times about how important collaboration is within the education world, and this is a natural fit. To have the community members come in and share their ag story, share what it is that they're doing, and then having the kids interact with that agriculture a little bit is going to be highly engaging. And that's what we saw in the feedback. Another question we asked is, if you could add something to Ag Education Week, what would it be? By and large, the feedback from that was more lessons, more engagement. How can we do even more during this week? And so we're working to build those resources so that we have even more opportunities for educators to utilize those resources in the fall. And then finally, what was the biggest hurdle or obstacle for Ag Education Week for an educator? And those varied. A lot of times they discussed funding or making sure that they had enough time. So we're working in as much time as possible to get these resources to educators. Finally, one of the best things that I think that came out of our survey was a question that we had for community members, but also educators. And it said, based on your first Ag Education Week, how do you feel about our next Ag Education Week? And what we see here, even though the font is really tiny, sorry about that, is that everyone selected either okay, good, yes, bring it on, or I'm already planning for it. So I don't know many initiatives that have 100% positive outlook for the future. Usually there's somebody who's just like, I just don't quite know that this was right for me. And we had everybody come in, community members and educators alike, saying, yes, we're ready for this. So that's very exciting. So just in case you missed it, Ag Education Week is going to be September 15th through the 19th. If you have anything cool that's going on in your district, I would love to know about it so that we can really spotlight that work. My email is right down below. And I'm also working on putting together a Ag Education Week tour. We did an Eastern Kentucky Day last year, or in the spring, and we did a Western Kentucky Day. We did a Central Kentucky Day. We did a JCPS as Ag Education Week Day. We visited all over the entire state to really spread the message of the good work that's happening in schools and to celebrate Ag Education Week with you all and with the kids. So if you're doing something really cool within your district, please email me and let me know. I can't guarantee that we can stop there, but I'm really hoping we can make as many stops as possible once again and really showcase the incredible work that's happening. So if we did this in the spring, what exactly are we doing in the fall? How is that different? Well, just like anything that we have, whenever it's a brand new initiative, we're always working and looking for improvement. I spent 12 years as an ag teacher and FFA advisor in JCPS at Seneca High School, and every single year, it was a question of how can we make this better for the kids and better for teachers? And so that's exactly what we're looking at through the feedback that teachers gave us about the entire week and community members gave us as well. So what's happening is an increase in communication. You should have gotten an email at the very beginning of June. We're going to send that out again, asking for an Ag Ed Week coordinator for every school. That is one person within the school who can get a direct email. Now, what this person is going to do kind of depends on your school and your principal. So at the minimum, all we're asking for is that person to send out an email saying, hey, here are the link for all of your resources for Ag Education Week teachers. And this is the date that we're doing Ag Education Week throughout the week of September, which we've already gone over. That's the minimum of what we're asking that person to do. On a school by school basis, there could be other things that that person wants to do, or that the principal would ask that person to help organize. It could be work with community members, or it could be fun activities throughout the school week. We saw a lot of dress down days where, you know, it was dressed like somebody in agriculture as a career day. We had different groups come in as your favorite animal. It was fantastic. Many schools did petting zoos, or they had pep rallies. You don't have to do those things, but if you wanted somebody to help organize that or be your central person within the school, that could also be the person that we're asking to just share that information about Ag Education Week. We only need one person per school, and there should be a link to that in your email. If not, please watch out for that in the future and then share that with your principals. The next thing that teachers asked for was more supplies. They want to do more labs, more hands-on work, and we all know that kids learn so well and are so highly engaged. They actually show up to school really, really in high numbers if we can do more hands-on work. And of course, that also sometimes comes with a cost. So what I'm working on is making sure that we can send out more supplies to you all, to your schools, and to your kids, so that your teachers can have those opportunities to really engage and dig deep in Ag Education Week. More on that to come. We're working on more farm and agribusiness tour opportunities. So we have a map that you can go through and you click your county or your region, and it will tell you every single farm and agribusiness who's willing to give a tour during Ag Education Week in your area. So that means your kids have an opportunity to actually get hands-on. And we're going to talk about what that looks like in just a little bit. We're going through more guest speakers and guest teachers. That was the highest level that we had across the entire state on feedback. Who engaged the most? It was through those guest speakers and guest teachers that came into the school that teachers said this made a very valuable impact. So we're trying to get even more of those opportunities across the entire state. Everything that we do is very inquiry based. So we're trying to trigger that natural curiosity kids have about school. And we're doing that through collaboration with the program specialist and program consultants at the Kentucky Department of Education. So in the spring, we had 2 pilot lessons from science in pollination and erosion. We're going to expand those for every single grade. So kindergarten through 5th grade will all have their own individual science lesson. All of those connect to agriculture. And then we're piloting social studies lessons, and we're going to do 2 of those, one for kindergarten through 2nd and one for 3rd through 5th. Finally, we're working with commodity groups and other groups across the entire state, including museums, to make sure that we can send out different labs and activities, again, increasing that exposure to agriculture through experimentation and hands-on activities. And then finally, for middle school and high school, we're not leaving those guys out. Our primary focus is, of course, in elementary school, but middle school and high school, we're working on cross-curricular project-based learning opportunities, which means that everybody in the entire school can work on ag education work through that entire week. And this would be cross-curricular. So your English teachers are going to be teaching something that plays off of your science teachers, which could be potentially even play off of your health and PE teachers. We're working on getting everybody to the table so that everybody can learn just a little bit more about agriculture education while still accomplishing the standards that they need to in their core content areas. This is that QR link to have one person within that school sign up to be the Ag Ed Week school coordinator. The link is also on there as well if you want to take a quick snapshot, and that will be coming through your email again in just a little while. One of those things we talked about last time was sending out more resources, and we're going to do another Ag book of Ag Education Week. This was our book from the spring. We're going to add another one. And this will be our fall Ag Education Week Ag book. And we're trying to do this so that we can send out a package to schools where it will have lots of engaging activities and information in it. That will then decrease the burden on teachers and schools to produce that on their own or try to find those resources across the state. We already have those relationships, so we're trying to make sure that we're cutting out any extra work or extra time or extra burden we would be putting on teachers. This also increases opportunities to engage with agriculture because you're getting the box right to your door. And that's a good opportunity to talk and to look what's in there and kind of explore on a case-by-case basis of how it is your kids can engage more with agriculture through this box that we're sending out to schools. This is also a good way to connect with schools between the agriculture community and the education community. So we're going to hopefully send out that Ag Education book, and then we're going to send out maybe just a few extra things in there as well. Those will come directly to your schools, specifically if they have a school coordinator, but if they don't, it will be sent generally to every single school for elementary schools across the state. For our guest speakers and teachers, we're hoping to bring the expert to you in case you can't go to the expert for field trips. We also know that having a guest speaker coming in, that it can increase engagement, and then it also brings the community in, which is one of those 3 things that Commissioner Fletcher really wants to do through collaboration. With our farm and agribusiness tours, we all know that talking about something like an apple is really great, but you really don't understand an apple until you actually eat it. And that's where these farm and agribusiness tours come in. These can be agritourism locations like Galleron's or Mulberry Orchard, but it could also be places that are just down the road from the school that's a working operating farm. These are individuals who are in agriculture 100% of the time. This is what they do. And they're willing to open up their gate or open up their door just for these kids. Now, some of them could open regularly for business as an agritourism spot, but many of them on this list are just opening so that their local kids know a little bit more about local agriculture. And we're trying to give those kids that really great hands-on experience so they can take that with them into the future. This also is a great way to make sure that kids understand the full connection between how we grow the food that they're eating and then the food that they're eating every single day, not just the food, but also all of the fiber needs, all of our energy needs. Like I said before, everything that we need comes from agriculture. For those science lessons, I thought it'd be helpful to give you a little sneak peek as to what it is we're planning. So for kindergartners, we're going into the needs of plants and animals through the agriculture lens. First grade is behavior patterns for survival. Second grade is going to keep that pollination lesson. Third grade is going through the life cycle. Fourth grade is going through that erosion lesson we started in the spring. And then fifth grade is going to go through a food web. How is it you can make a difference through this Ag Education Week? What can you do to make sure this is going to be fantastic in your district? First and foremost, making sure that the principals know that we're looking for those school coordinators and encouraging people to take advantage of that. One per school to really get us clear messaging and clear communication about the resources available from all three of these groups coming together for Ag Education Week. If you can help share that out through that email to all of your principals, that would be fantastic. Next off, engaging really completely and fully with the big three that Commissioner Fletcher talks about. That's vibrant learning, innovation, and collaboration. The best thing about Ag Education Week is that it does all of these in extremely high quality situations. It is very vibrant learning to see these kids engage with this topic area. It's also very innovative. The kids, a lot of times through these different activities and lesson plans, are asking to build, create, design, and use the information that they're trying to accomplish in the standards. And all of us as educators know that when you ask kids to utilize what they're learning at a very high level. Finally, this is a really good opportunity to collaborate with community partners, to bring in people into the schools and see the really great work that is happening across the state in education. This isn't a moment where we can really shine as educators. Something you might want to think about. We're doing this Ag Education Tour again with Lieutenant Governor Commissioner Fletcher and Commissioner Schell, but what if you did an Ag Education Week tour within your county or within your district, and you just did a stop by to see what this looks like for yourself? You could absolutely do this. And this could also be a way to bring in more people from the community to showcase the learning that's happening in the incredible educators within your district. So things you or people or groups you might want to consider doing an invite for could be the County Farm Bureau. A lot of times they sponsor, help out, they write grants, they'll come into school and read books to your kids and things like that as a part of Ag Education Week or Ag Literacy Week in the spring. They would definitely be on my short list to call in and say, hey, come see what we're doing. This is going to be incredible work. Chamber of Commerce is also a really great place to go and ask them to see if they want to come in and experience Ag Education Week, in addition to the Rotary Club, school board members, anybody else who you think would be a great addition to this list could also be where you're taking a little bitty tour of your district and what this looks like across the district. Because as we know, this is going to be vibrant learning at its best. It's going to be innovative, and it's going to show that really high level of collaboration. Showcasing the really great work that Kentucky educators are doing is a huge opportunity to talk about the great work that's happening every single day. So where can you find different resources, and how can you share that with your staff? We have a Facebook page for the Kentucky Department of Ag Education and Outreach. We're releasing and announcing all of our different Ag Week opportunities through that Facebook page, so you can follow that on Facebook. The middle section there is our Ag Education Week website. This is going to go through an overhaul and an update through the month of July, But around the first week of August is when all of our new initiatives are going to be released for that. So I encourage you to share that out and then check again at the beginning part of August for what our new initiatives look like. And then finally, if you need education resources for agriculture at any time, including during Ag Education Week or anytime throughout the whole year, you can go to our Ag Education Cache. It has professional development for teachers. It has school garden help. It has some grant opportunities and lots of different work that we're doing at the Department of Agriculture centered around work with the youth and work with education. So hopefully you can find a lot of resources there. And if you ever need anything, you can, of course, let me know. This is my contact information and my work cell phone number. You can call me or text me at any time. I'm happy to talk to you or to your staff members about what this can look like and the different opportunities we have for Ag Education Week across the entire state. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you to the Department of Agriculture to give us so much information. And Commissioner, we are back to you.
Okay, before we go over the important dates, were there any questions that came up from our document,
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes, Commissioner, there was one question that came up, and we'll make sure that one of the associate commissioners gives some guidance on that question after the meeting.
Okay. One other thing too, we did have a question about the print of the important due dates for superintendents. Talking about how this was not a print-friendly document. What we'll try to do is get a PDF version, and we'll get that out. We'll email that to everyone as we go through. But again, if you're having some struggles, I know a lot of people like to print these out and get those out in that method, but we'll try our best to get the important due dates for superintendents printed and sent out to you, hopefully before the end of the day today or tomorrow. A few important dates as we move forward. We do have the next Education Professional Standards Board on July 28th. Our local Superintendent's Advisory Council on July 29th. The Kentucky Board of Education will be meeting on August 6th and 7th. And then the next Superintendent's Webcast will be August 12th. Now, some of you will be starting school. And in the meantime, as a matter of fact, I know I'm speaking at a couple of opening days. Folks, if you would like for me to visit your district, I've really left that open to invitation. Please contact Stacy. I really enjoy visiting districts and being out there. We'll do our best over the course of the year to try to get out as much as possible. But again, if you'd like for me to be at your district to visit on just a regular day or be a part of an event, please let Stacy know. And again, Superintendent, as you know, there's one other thing I'll close with, and I'm kind of expanding a role here, and you'll hear more about this with your co-ops. Before we had two former superintendents as a liaison between the superintendents and with the commissioner. It was Scott Hawkins and also Rachel Yarborough. Now, Scott Hawkins has moved on to another position, and I'm actually going to expand this into to utilize 4 different retired superintendents to meet with different groups. For example, we'll have one that will meet with WKEC and GREC, one with OVEC and with CKEC. One former superintendent will meet with NKCES and also with KEDC, and then also one with KVEC and Southeast South Central. And the role of these people, it's really to make sure that the communication lines stay open. Welcome to text me anytime. But sometimes there may be some cases where a group of superintendents may want something to come to me anonymously, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with that communication. And I'm going to ask these people to attend each of the meetings, each of your co-op directors meetings, and really to be a part of any type of sessions where it's with superintendents and with these individuals. Again, it's however your co-op wants to handle that. Again, it's just really about keeping lines open. I do appreciate the fact that superintendents feel very comfortable with talking with people at KDE. They also seem to be very comfortable with talking to me directly, which is great. But there may be some, maybe some people feel more comfortable with others to talk to to make sure communication is going on. But again, we want to keep those avenues open as much as possible. We'll talk more about these positions. I've talked to the co-op directors already about this, and then you'll know more as we move forward. But again, just want to make sure that everyone is aware and look forward to keeping those lines open. Now, for many of you, you'll have your first day of school before. I wish you the absolute best. I think that, again, it's an exciting time of the year. Again, just really appreciate everything that each district does. And again, making that year so exciting to start off for every student. Again, I can't emphasize enough how much I enjoy this time of year. So I wish each of you the best of luck. Have any questions or concerns, please contact me, or you're welcome to contact an associate commissioner directly, or our co-op directors. We'll do our best to answer any questions that you may have. Now, as always, I do appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate the hard work that you put into this. Most importantly, I appreciate your being all in. Everyone have a great one.